Is that the end of it? Is that the end of the whole thing? No fucking way. Wow. So that decision doesn't even mean anything. Hilarious. Alright, let me turn down the music here so we can listen in peace, or I can talk in peace while not being deafened, and you can not be deafened as well. Okay, that looks pretty good levels wise. Okay. Evaluate choices. Harley Quinn.
You got that look in your eye, the kind that says you're trouble.
Agency asset. You and 50.1% of players dismissed her importance to the agency. Harley was ecstatic that the heist at Wayne Enterprises went off without a hitch. She was furious that the Pact abandoned her at the agency convoy raid. Again, that was entirely down to a choice that was not, like, telegraphed to me what was about to happen. I just had to pick her or Bane, and it was just random. I guess Bane would have been pissed if not her. Harley felt a momentary sadness when you admitted your treachery, but still condemned you to death. Yeah, I kind of don't even believe she felt sadness. Harley was heartbroken when you convinced John to subdue her. To be totally honest, that doesn't have a lot to do with me. I think John, given a little guidance, would have come to the same conclusion, because, I don't know, that wasn't gonna go well for anyone. While she still works for the agency, Harley worries. So that's actively unconcluded narrative there, huh? Wow. While she still works for the agency, Harley worries she's just another of Waller's pawns. Well, for somebody who throughout the rest of the game was very smart and capable, she was incredibly fucking dumb at the end there, thinking that somehow she wasn't a pawn. They literally put a collar on her. Both literally and metaphorically not in charge. Fuck you, Waller. Fuck you. Fuck you and your...
I'm the whole goddamn hurricane.
Shut up. Director of the agency, Amanda Waller. You and 40.2% of players remained in a stalemate with her. Waller was furious that you tampered with her witness after Riddler first resurfaced in Gotham. Her witness? I don't even remember what that's specifically referring to, actually. There was way too many things going on in this game, if we're totally honest. She appreciated you reaching out to her after your first fight with Bane. Was that relevant? Waller was beyond angry when you blew your cover with the Pact. Well, what did you... Again, same thing as I said at the time. The only difference would have been that I was in the middle of the heist in civilian clothes instead of as Batman. Like, they were still going to kill tons of people. The thing that she allegedly was mad about was that the thing didn't go her way and a lot of people got killed, but all those people would have got killed and I would have been there to watch it. That would have been the difference. So... She declared you an enemy of the state for siding with John Doe on the Gotham Bridge. Well, I don't know what power she has to call me a quote-unquote enemy of the state. But again, like we established before, everything about her plan there was a non-plan that would have gotten a lot of explosions to happen. And in fact, I saved her from the whole situation, and then she burned it anyway. After it had all gone to plan, and everybody was just gonna walk away, but apparently she had to cook the whole situation. Joker was going to walk over and hand the thing over, and it was just gonna be okay, and she was like, okay, gun in your face. Everything that happened after that was her fault. I mean, most of what happened before that was also her fault, but through your stalemate with Waller's stance, she left Gotham as your enemy. What? Because I didn't talk nice to her in the back of the ambulance? Fuck her.
Gotham's safety is slipping out from under me and I can't stand it.
You and 59.6% of players accepted Gordon's apology. Gordon was humbled that you would trust him with your secret association with Lucius Fox. When Waller berated you for tampering with her witness, Maury. Oh, Maury, that's who the witness was. Okay. Gordon supported you. He was hurt when you called Waller instead of him to help you after Bane's initial attack. Oh, I kind of forgot that that was a choice. Gordon felt sick that he demanded you give up Felt sick that he... What? Gordon felt sick that he demanded you give up Catwoman to a GCPD ambush? I don't know what that means. Felt sick that... Does that mean in retrospect he felt bad that he overstepped in that way? And, like, tried to put leverage on me with Catwoman? I think that's what that means, but that feels weird. He was grateful when you forgave him for losing his self-control and letting Waller get to him. Yeah, I mean, what was I gonna do? Be petty?
I weighed my options, and what can I say? I don't like to lose.
What? You and 0.1% of players allowed Waller to keep Selina in her task force. What did I do wrong? Was there a way to not have her... I even blindly picked the option where I asked for Waller. Is that because I didn't say yes to giving up, Joker on the roof? I mean, that shouldn't have affected the outcome anyway, because any agreement we had there was immediately broken. Right? Well, now that I think about it, I mean, Waller was in the at the ambulance going, I guess I'll agree to our terms and walk away. But I just assumed as soon as Joker showed up and bombed shit, that all bets were off. So is this is only because I didn't like her counter proposition when I asked for Catwoman? And that, again, that's like, that is somehow a mutually exclusive decision from the whole thing with Avesta, where also trying to protect Avesta, what was the thing? Avesta gets to go away, gets to leave unharmed? Like, why are those two things mutually exclusive? Because I don't know, maybe it doesn't make sense to me, but I guess maybe there could have been a version of that scene where Catwoman's collar is taken off, but there's no way, right? After her return to Gotham, Selina was irritated by your assertion that people never change. That was such an offhand remark. After you neglected to warn her about a GCPD ambush, Selina felt on edge around you. She was honored to be invited to the Batcave, your secret sanctum. Selina was horrified that Harley sentenced you to death when you blew your cover with the Pact. Also, I really don't like the way they've... This is framed as though I have agency in this, but I don't. I mean, maybe by very remote proxy, but allowed Waller. Allowed. Not like didn't advocate for her or anything. Allowed. Waller, like, as much as I say, like, I have the power in this dynamic, and Waller should be more worried about me, because burning Bruce Wayne as Batman is not as big a deal as burning Waller and her entire career, you know? Waller's way too attached to her own career. Given enough pressure, I think she would crack. But anyway, again, allowed. Despite all of my assertions about, They've done it with the gloves again. This time the gloves are the right length, but her... all of the fingers are... or only the... No, I guess... No, they're all fingerless. Anyway, sorry, distraction. Waller still did hold the cards when it came to everyone else. And implying that I somehow had the ability to make this go differently is very shitty. Because if it was possible, and I'm not even convinced it was possible, then it was only by some random set of decisions that I was not explicitly informed of that would have gotten her out of it. So, I don't know there.
I won't let you down.
You and 80.6% of players took Tiffany under your wing. To be totally honest, like, even if you deeply disagree, even if you even more deeply disagree and dislike Tiffany for what she did and what went on, there seems to be very little... It seems to be petty, basically, to punish her. When even Waller is just looking the other way on it, if Batman is going to be the one to send her to justice for that, like, man, we've let everybody else in this game get away with a lot of shit, and sending Tiffany away to jail for killing Riddler is like such small potatoes. Tiffany felt betrayed when you admitted your involvement in Lucius's death. What do you mean, betrayed? She was worried for you when you told her to hide while you helped Harley steal the Phalanx key. I would hope so. What other emotion would she be feeling? After she realized you were working with the agency, she regretted calling the GCPD on you. She was at first confused, but then completely blown away when you told her you were Batman. Now Tiffany is repenting for the murder of Riddler under your watchful mentorship. I mean, you say so, but to be totally honest, like I've already said, she's so ill-defined. I barely have any attachment to her character. I have much more attachment to Avesta.
Criminally insane. You're drawn to them, aren't you?
COO Wayne Enterprises. Interesting. Huh, okay. You and 54.9% of players asked her to come work for you. Avesta was traumatized by Riddler's game and the loss of her hearing. She was thankful you let it slide when she admitted she revealed your secret identity to Waller. Avesta was intrigued that you trusted John Doe to find Harley after she escaped Sanctus. You mean instead of, like, pushing for us to go with? After helping you blackmail Waller, Avesta is hopeful about her new position at Wayne Enterprises. Yeah. Frankly, the character that everything went the best way possible with, more or less. I mean, we could have saved her hearing, maybe, but, like, I'm still not entirely sure how that plays out otherwise.
If a man hides in plain sight for that long, does he forget who he really is?
I'm actually surprised this is as clean a split as it is. You and 58% of players let Alfred go rather than giving up Batman's crusade. After you watched the footage of Lucius's violent demise, Alfred was filled with vengeance. Was he? You know, it really does. That last scene really does feel like Alfred projecting a lot of his own, like, insecurity about his decisions and his commitments and his own emotional attachment to the situation than an actual thing about Batman, right? Like, if Alfred was saying it about himself, that, in fact, if you just take that whole last scene with him, and instead of it being like one long accusatory rant about how Batman is evil, if it was instead a self-reflective thing of, I tried to look after you, I did my best to, you know, to help you in every way I could, I am feeling like I personally have become too engaged and too neglectful of my own needs, as well as, like, compromising in my moral stance that I no longer feel like I can commit to working on this with you, then that's a great scene. Instead, all you have to do is like flip who's being accused. Instead of accusing Bruce, just have it be a self-reflection for Alfred. You can say basically all the same talking points and it's completely valid because it's his personal thing rather than just being an out of the blue accusation. I told him not to. I think I warned him, but there was one version, one dialogue option that was like, no, you really shouldn't. And I didn't pick that one. When you told Tiffany your secret, Alfred was relieved he no longer had to keep it from her. After collapsing in the Batcave, Alfred felt reassured when you agreed that he needed a vacation. He soon became gravely concerned by Batman's continued influence on the vigilante Joker. This is still fucking bullshit, by the way. Like, I still maintain that pretty much every other possible, both within clearly within the options of the game, as well as any like conceptual versions of where Joker could have gone otherwise, in basically every other condition, he gets worse. We're gonna ignore his sudden turn towards villainy right at the end of the game because that's such a contrived turn. We'll get to that. Alfred left Wayne Manor, anguished that your crusade against criminals would consume you. Well, he wasn't really giving me options of any kind anyway. He just made a long statement. Like, I'm not even gonna bother loading my backup save and seeing what he says, because clearly it doesn't matter because the game just ends. But I don't think he was suddenly gonna be like, oh, you picked me? Oh boy, well then I'll just go back to being my normal self. You're Alfred, your butler all the time. Like, it's so stupid.
We're two threads in the same stitch, bound together, even under strain.
So again, I'm surprised that it was even a split with Alfred. I thought more people might get I guess it's kind of a 50-50 expectation there. Because on the one hand, I would sort of assume a lot of people would be a little bit more easily manipulated than me by the game's shaming of you and being like, oh, you should feel bad for Alfred. And then a lot of people do. But on the other hand, I can see where a lot of people would be like, but then I have to give up being Batman. It's cool being Batman, so I'm going to keep being Batman. So I guess, I don't know. I'm curious people's reasons. This is also a surprisingly even split. I guess it's not... This doesn't differentiate between whether you tell him you're still friends in the vigilante path or the villain path. So maybe it has more to do with that. When he found you at Lucius's funeral, John was thrilled when you agreed to meet his friends. He was heartbroken when Harley was left behind on the convoy raid. Again, something I didn't realize I was choosing. John was shocked when you blew your cover with Harley, inviting her wrath. Which I really expected him to back me up on more, but he didn't. After you trusted him in the funhouse, John devoted himself to helping you clean up Gotham. Was that the actual pivotal moment that decides whether he goes villain or like anti-hero? I don't know. Joker thinks you're as crazy as he is for considering yourselves friends. I mean, that's the thing. That is my favorite part of this entire game, is the arc of friendship between the two of them is actually very, very well done. I talked previously about, like, clearly Joker has a lot going on in his head that needs to be worked on and treated in various ways. He is very naive, he is very, in a way, idealistic, and he's very much in need of, by all accounts, he seems to be in need of, like, friendship and guidance, hopefully from good people. And so really at no point during the game did I ever waver on the feeling of he's, you know, I want to continue looking after him. Even when he's like really making my own personal situations hard, it's like, yeah, but you know, I still get the sense he's doing his best with how he understands the world. He has a very broken understanding of the world around him. Do I think that makes the weird, you know, sort of ham-fisted comparisons between the two sides? There's so many other Batman narratives where we can talk very validly talk about how, you know, the line between Batman and his opponents is pretty thin. I don't think that's really very true in this game. If anything, all the gray area in this game comes from being like more or less forced at gunpoint by Waller to go infiltrate rather than, you know, do it in the normal Batman way. So anyway. Did you save Willie or Agent Harrison? You and 70% of players saved Willie. I'm actually surprised it's not higher. 14.5% of players hesitated during Bane's attack. 15.4% of players saved Agent Harrison. Okay, so it's just a 15% flub. Or non-decision, I guess. But only 15% of players. Yeah, I mean, why would I give a shit about Harrison? He was such a piece of garbage in that scene, and then, you know... Did you take Tiffany into the field with you? You and 22.6% of players had Tiffany help from the Batcave. I don't think that mattered at all, because she still showed up in the fucking building anyway. We never addressed why that worked, but, I don't know. I guess maybe everybody else was more convinced by her, you know, her making her own outfit and everything and wanting to be part of the team. But again, like I said when that came up, we have no idea about her capacity. And just, I even called it, that immediately as soon as she entered the situation, she got wounded. Frankly, it's a good thing it was only, you know, her hand getting pierced and not, you know, her throat getting cut or something. Did you agree to hand over Joker to Waller? You and 68.5% of players refused to hand over Joker to Waller. So why? I would really like to know why 0.1% of people allowed, big air quotes, Catwoman to stay. Because this means that this... I was thinking maybe it was because most people agreed to hand over Joker in exchange for whoever they wanted, whether that was Catwoman or Avesta or I think the third option was the villains. But with this split, that would then instead suggest that it's an even smaller percentage of players who did the thing I was speculating was necessary, which was to pick Catwoman and then hand over Joker. So either I'm wrong about that, or a tiny, tiny fraction of people picked Catwoman in the first place, and in fact, I'm assuming that would mean most people picked Avesta instead? But I don't know. Anyway, that number seems incredibly tiny. I also don't know how accurate these numbers are or when they were last updated. I don't think this is checking into any Telltale server, given the fact that, you know, the Telltale company that existed when this game came out is now gone. So I don't know what server it would be contacting unless the new company that took up the Telltale name is running a server in its place, but I doubt they would bother. So I'm assuming these are cached old numbers. Did you give up the cowl so Alfred would stay? You and 58% of players chose never to give up being Batman. Well, that isn't what I said. I didn't say never. But whatever. 5.7% of players refused to hear Alfred's last words. 36% of players, 36.3% of players told Alfred you would give up being Batman. That seems wild. It just doesn't matter. I'm not even going to say anything more about it. Which Joker did you defeat? You and 55.1% defeated Vigilante Joker. So it's a fairly even split. But it is more Vigilante than... So it must not be that hard to get the Vigilante Joker path. If, like I was saying just a few minutes ago, if that is all hinging on how you handle the funhouse situation, then I guess that would explain it. I assumed that the vigilante versus villain was defined by more of your cumulative efforts one way or the other. But now that I say that out loud, it would make more sense. It would be more in keeping with typical Telltale that rather than that, it hinges on one single choice at a random time. Photos collected. Okay. Oh, there's an ending? I don't really like post-credit scenes, but okay. But he's back in Arkham. Is Arkham still up?
Visitor for John Doe.
I guess it is.
Bruce!
Huh. Okay. You know, I thought I was going to sit in the end of the game and have a long unpacking of everything that's wrong with it. And everything that's right with it, because there's a lot that's good. But I've already talked over a lot of it. Do I want to... Let's just talk about one thing before we go. Because we haven't kind of talked about the game as a whole. We've talked about the piecemeal parts that make it a problem. But not as a whole. The main problem that damages the entire narrative is that it's inconsistent. The game can't decide where it's going at any point and switches horses midstream multiple times. In the first episode, we get the impression that the problem is that John has fallen in with these villains. Then it's the villains want to do a heist, but Waller, well, and Waller is sort of in the background of episode 1 and 2. I'm not going to get the exact timing right, but you'll get where I'm going with this. So we have Waller and the villains and John all as separate players. We're not exactly sure. Oh, I forgot about the whole Riddler. That's really the first episode, isn't it? I was thinking more about the second. So first it's Riddler, who immediately gets killed by Tiffany, apparently, which I still think is incredibly stupid. By the way, side note, on Tiffany, like, there's no validation for that, and especially when she's, you know, at the end saying, like, how she's sorry for it, and, like, she was, you know, she didn't even say, I made a mistake acting out of vengeance, because really the thing there should be, hey, if your mother won't leave the house and your brother is, like, lashing out, maybe focus your energy and efforts not on making a robot to shoot a supervillain, and maybe, you know, go spend time with your family and try and give them comfort. Because somehow I don't think that your grieving mother and your angry brother are going to see Riddler's death on the TV and go, oh, we feel better now. So fuck that. You spent a whole lot of time, effort, and focus on just going for petty vengeance, and the whole thing from a literary, narrative perspective is a complete rug pull out of the blue for no reason, just basically to give someone killed Riddler. Ultimately, it kind of didn't matter who killed her, who killed him, and also that you needed to have a reason for her to be in the room so that she could get hurt, and to give Waller something to do once Waller was free. Okay, so back to the point I was trying to make. We have Riddler as the main villain, who dies, and then that whole thing doesn't follow through. Then we have the main villains, the Pact, who show up at the same time as Waller, and they're going against each other, and we are also like sort of forced to work with Waller while she upends the GCPD. And we also have Gordon, who for no apparent reason is losing his mind. I mean, he understandably because of Waller, but he does a bunch of things out of character that are just there mostly as an annoyance. So then it seems like the Pact is the big deal. Then by the next episode, it seems like the Pact isn't the big deal. It's in fact Sanctus, who it turns out is actually associated with and or run by Waller. So Waller seems to be the biggest villain. And then at the end, they twist it so no matter what path you took with John, he's the final villain, because the final contrivance that sets the whole final chain in motion is Harley gets away with the toxin, and like, gets into this stalemate on the bridge. Waller, alleging that she has a plan, is instead basically just gonna shoot her and have the explosives go off, and then that'll technically be the end of things. But Waller was also claiming that it was gonna blow up the bridge and be a disaster, but it all happened and it didn't go that way. So we fix that scenario, and then Waller does it badly anyway by not letting the quality and outcome that we orchestrated play out, where John hands over the toxin and we end it. Mostly because she was being greedy and she wanted the toxin instead of having it be destroyed. So that twists, like in a contrived way, finally sets I don't even want to call it his villain arc. It sets John on his own vengeance arc, where he's like tired of being manipulated, and nobody's taking responsibility in his eyes, and he's kind of right in a lot of ways, that like the agency is incredibly evil and Waller is incredibly evil, and I still maintain personally that in this entire game Waller is far and away the most evil character, with the most blood on her hands. And that's all so that we don't have to have we have the final showdown with Joker instead of Waller, because the smart but less, like, I guess it's because they just wanted it to be a Batman versus Joker thing, but it would have been way cooler if the vigilante, all the work we had done to get John to become a vigilante had worked out in the end, and it was Joker and Batman versus Waller and the agency. Like, that's a way that it is way more satisfying from a narrative build-up perspective. But again, instead they do the same thing again, and they twist who's gonna be the villain at the last minute so that we can have a fist fight with Joker in the chemical plant. And it's not that fight was bad, it just didn't follow the rest of the game. And that's what happens throughout this entire game, is the game doesn't follow its own narrative through at any point. So you're constantly changing what you're doing. You're changing who's in trouble. You're changing who's the villain. And meanwhile, you've got all these side stories with Tiffany and Catwoman and Alfred, all of which are very shallow and underdeveloped, that are used for this wretched attempt at emotional manipulation that is not... It doesn't work because I don't care. Like, the game has not spent the time to build up those relationships, and it chastises for repeatedly for things you had no control over or knowledge of, or you might have technically had an influence on, but ultimately, like, you couldn't have known that's what was happening. The worst part, possibly of all, I think, is the fact that Alfred's presence in this entire game is only so he can repeatedly basically harm himself and then give you multiple shitty lectures about how somehow you're the villain, no matter which choices you've made. Because there are so many, like, I get what they were probably going for, because there are so many Batman narratives where Batman has to grapple with the gray area that he operates in, that he is a vigilante, that he is trying to play two sides of the coin by playing both Batman and Bruce Wayne. That there are lots of valid criticisms of how he operates, what he does, even his moral code that he claims to stand by so staunchly. Those are all things that are valid, but in the way they're presented and the people they're presented by, it's just random guilt tripping about things you had no control over. I already kind of said it during Alfred's sign off, but he's basically saying, well, maybe you're the one who made them evil all along, which is, in a different narrative, would be valid, and in this one isn't, because I basically, as far as I can tell, all of the choices I made, one, a lot of them don't really make a difference, and two, all the choices I made were basically the most positive choices, least destructive, least evil choices I could make in the entire game, and the game then shames me just for having played it, basically. Saying, oh, you could have done better. No, I literally couldn't have. Like, I picked the best choices you gave me, and now you're making it the reason why one of the most beloved characters in comic book history is just gonna randomly decide to be petty and walk away and, spit in my eye right at the end of the game. That wasn't necessary. It leaves a sour, like, if the rest of the game wasn't already leaving a bit of a sour taste in my mouth by the end, that's a real, like, last kick in the shins, last spit in the eye of fuck you for playing, I guess. I was so hopeful throughout, like, the first three episodes at least, I want to say, that this game, I do think it's probably still a better game than the first game, but it made... Do less. Don't make Alfred's arc an arc. Don't include Tiffany at all. She doesn't need to be here. She doesn't do anything. You're also not setting anything up for a sequel. Just do less. Don't keep switching villains. If you want to do a villain switch, go from you're against the Pact to now you're against the Agency and Sanctum. Do that one switch and then don't go back, because that's a more interesting narrative where you can work out how you have to work alongside or even with the villains because you have a common enemy. Like I was talking about a couple of episodes ago, it is in everyone's best interest to work together to get rid of Waller and the Agency and Sanctum, because that is all incredibly evil. And if there had been the moment of realization between Bruce and the Pact to go, hey, did you guys actually weren't being super villainous, trying to be mega murderers this whole time, and you were hoping for like a cure-all for your medical problems? Hey, we can work on that. That's a point we can come together on. That and fuck Waller. But it just kept switching things up for no reason. It did too much. And it spoiled one of my favorite relationships in all of Telltale games, which is this relationship between Bruce and Joker. Joker is so good for 80% of this game. I really like him. I like the way he's written. I like the way he's characterized. His performance is wonderful. He's got this curiosity to him, this naivete that's charming, but like he's clearly, got his own demons, his anger issues, all these other things. He's a wonderful character, and the way he plays off of Batman, I think it could have been done better in certain ways, but like it is still very, very good. And then they shit on all of that by making us fight at the end. I mean, I guess we get to still be friends, but forcing the change in villains so that you could have a climactic battle when you went through so much effort in 4 other episodes to try and get him on the right side, and then the game railroads you into him being on the wrong side anyway. It's just shitty. This game has some great character stuff in it. Despite what I just said about Tiffany and Alfred being like incredibly poorly characterized and shouldn't even be in the game, basically, this game also has some of the best character development and characterization. Like even the stuff with Freeze and with Catwoman to a lesser extent, and with Harley, like there are moments in there that are really quite good, that go up against, from my experience, some of the best within Telltale. But it's the writing around those scenes that kind of ruins it, because they have to railroad you into, well, ultimately what you said didn't matter, Is this my favorite Telltale game? I thought it might be. I still think I probably like Wolf Among Us better. Again, another deeply flawed game with a deeply flawed ending, because they can't, they make the same weird narrative decisions over and over again in Telltale games of keep adding twists and twists and more twists. Is the original Walking Dead better? The original Walking Dead still might be the best Telltale game, actually. I have to think about that. But this is up there. It's pretty good. Despite all my problems with it, it's pretty darn good. It's mostly a very good narrative. It's just that the times when it isn't a good narrative are insulting. Anyway, I think I'll stop my ramble there, because I could probably keep just picking at little things, but I hope you've enjoyed coming through this game with me. I think it's pretty good. Deeply flawed, but pretty good. It's got things I really like about it. I do kind of wish it had a sequel. But I don't know. Whatever the successor to Telltale is, the successor game development company, it needs to, if it's going to keep in the vein of making these sort of point and click narrative adventures, they need to fix some of the perpetual problems with Telltale games, like switching villains, like having inconsistent characterization, like having your decisions not make a difference. This is still some of Telltale's best work, for better or for worse. Anyway, thank you guys for coming along with this with me. This has been Batman, Enemy Within. I've been the Social Solipsist, and I'll see you guys next time.